Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with, yay, the complete Decca recordings of Herbert Blomstedt. Finally, you may recall there was a smaller Blomstedt box, which was practically worthless because, the stuff was great, but it was just samples of bits of things. I don't mean pieces of works. I mean just like a fragment of this. And why not just do this instead of that? So all of us who bought that now have to buy this. Maybe it wasn't so stupid of them after all, but it's annoying. And it's also one of these, watch out how you pick it up because it's going to collapse and kill you and fall on your foot. How many discs are in here? 33. It's actually kind of surprising, isn't it? You would think he did quite a bit more for Decca than 33 CDs. The impact, I think, of his work for Decca was much greater than merely 33 CDs. But they were sensibly made recordings because they fall into rather distinct repertoire categories. And in those categories, they're some of the best recordings anybody ever did. So it's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. We can go through it very easily and chat with it. What are you doing? This is Kitten. Finster, don't get on that. Oh, dear. All right. Anyway, come on. Behave yourself. You want to come up here and say hello? You can do that. No, I just want to sit under the desk. All right, so let's see what we got here, shall we? We're going to go through this one disc at a time, or a bunch of discs. And he also has this fabulous chair. Let's face it, what a great album design. Just absolutely terrific. Blomstedt, as you know, is like 175, and he's still making records, and he's still working, and he probably should retire. I hate to say it, but the reality is. All right, never mind. Let's just go through this. It's alphabetically organized, more or less, I think. Yeah, yes, it is. All right, so here we'll go through the B's for the first batch of them. Bartók, Concerto for Orchestra, and Kossuth. Really fine performances, but there's so many good performances of the Concerto for Orchestra that, this one is sort of lost in the shuffle, but it certainly doesn't disgrace anybody. So, yeah, it's really good. So there you go. Beethoven, Symphonies 1 and 3. Now, Blomstedt had two sort of golden eras in his career. The first was with the Staatskapelle Dresden, from whence comes a marvelous Beethoven cycle that's on Berlin Classics, and it is preferable on the whole to these, good as they are, and they're very good. They really are, but you're comparing them to the Staatskapelle Dresden, and that was a great cycle, and he was a little bit younger and friskier, maybe, and so that was good. Oh, there we go. Berwald. We're waiting for the complete new Berwald cycle that he theoretically has done. So we'll see how these stack up. He seems to have, he's like 175. So, of course, he's a little slower and a little less, emphatic, perhaps, than he was. These are beautiful performances. I wish he'd done the single Lier in here and done the rest of them. It's just a pity he didn't do the rest of them. It really is. Only two others. But they're lovely, lovely performances, and Berwald is great and as good as unknown. So you really ought to hear the music. It's wonderful. A beautiful Brahms fourth. This is much better than his Brahms cycle that he recently did with the Leipzig Gewandhaus. This is a gorgeous fourth, and you get a bunch of motets and other goodies on here, and choral works and things like that, which is really nifty. He spent a lot of time, Blomstedt, working with Brahms choral music, and a lot of it's very, very beautiful and very little known. So this is a wonderful coupling, and it's a marvelous Brahms fourth, particularly powerful finale, really, really trenchant. Yes, it's in the trenches. And here is the other choral works, Brahms choral works disc. This is just the best performances of these you can get all together on a disc. You get the Schicksalslied, the Alto Rhapsody with Yard van Ness, the Begräbnisgesang, Nenia, and the Gesang der Parzen, the Song of the Furies. Whoa, baby. This is terrific. With the San Francisco Symphony Chorus, which is one of the great symphony choruses, it just doesn't get better. And this is a reference recording. It really is. Also a reference recording is Brahms' German Requiem. Blomstedt, they make a bit about him being, a Seventh-day Adventist and whatnot, which makes him a spiritual guy, and he is. But the point is that, as with most of the best performances of this, including Klemper's and other people's, it's a performance that doesn't make a point of its religiosity. It it is confident in its faith, and it understands that the message of this work is consolation. It's not supposed to transport you into the nether regions. It's just supposed to make you feel better. And it does. It moves. It's beautiful. It's flowing. It's consoling. It's what this work ought to be. Glorious, glorious performance. Actually, all of his recordings with the San Francisco Symphony Chorus and this orchestra are really, really first rate, as you will see. Bruckner. Okay, Bruckner consists of three things. The fourth, the sixth, along with Wagner's Siegfried Idyll, and the seventh, and the Adagio orchestrated of the string quintet. This is with the Gewandhaus. The real gem in this series is the ninth. It's a beautiful, beautiful ninth. Perfectly paced, wonderfully played. I was really rather sad when it came out because it wasn't even released in the U.S. because at that point, Decca was collapsing and Blomstedt's recorded career with Decca was coming to an end. He was at the Gewandhaus and he was certainly willing to make records. They did a few, and then they just canned him. And that was the end of it. And that's just such a shame because it could have been a much richer legacy, at least for the next few years. So that's the first batch. Let me see what we have here. Let me stick it somewhere where it won't get lost. Next batch. What's this? Okay, yeah, let's do this batch. We've got, all right, Grieg Piano Concerto, Chopin Piano Concerto No. 1 with Olli Mustonen. This is interesting. Mustonen is nuts. I mean, I saw him do an entire Schumann recital where he kept his feet off the floor, never touched the pedals. I mean, he plays with this sort of dry, brittle tone, and I mean, he hadn't gone completely insane when these were made. These are fairly more normal, but they're still different enough to be interesting, and they're nice performances, and that's all you need to know. Then we've got the Peer Gynt suites coupled with the Nielsen Aladdin suite and Nielsen's Masquerade Overture. Gorgeous performances, fabulous because he did all this stuff anyway when he did the complete Peer Gynt Nielsen? No, Peer Gynt, that's the guy. Peer Gynt incidental music, the whole shebangy. One of the great ones. It's again with the San Francisco Symphony Chorus, a terrific lineup of soloists, Marianne Hagender, Marilyn Vaughn, Wendy Hoffman, Wendy White, other people. They yell in Norwegian. What's not to love? Then we've got, some American music. You have to do it. Sessions. Session Symphony number 2. Is it the second? Yes, number 2. And let's see, William Bennett Symphony number 2, John Harbison oboe. No, William Bennett's the oboist in the John Harbison Oboe Concerto, which he plays very well, and the Second Symphony by John Harbison, which has 4 movements: dawn, daylight, dusk, darkness. Doesn't interest me terribly much. Harbison's music never has. I think it's kind of like neither here nor there. It's like not tonal, not melodic, not this, not that, not atonal. It's just sort of in between. But Sessions is a great composer, and his Second Symphony is one of his early masterworks, and it's fabulous. These performances are all great. So if you like Harbison better than I do, go for it. This went out of print within seconds of its release, of course. Hindemith. Oh, his Hindemith. 3 Hindemith discs. 2 with San Francisco, 1 with the Gewandhaus, and you get Mathis der Mahler, the Symphonic Metamorphosis, the Trauermusik, funeral music, Nobilissima Visione, der Schwanendreher, the concert music, and the Sinfonia Serena and die Harmonia der Welt. Ooh, yeah. Now, this one with the Gewandhaus, with the Sinfonia Serena and die Harmonie der Welt, or Harmonia der Welt, however you pronounce it, who cares? Wow. Great performances, the best ever of those works. The other stuff, well, I think I like other performances of the Symphonic Metamorphosis. Zell did it, and Bernstein did it, and Ormandy did it, and they all did it, and Mathis der Mahler too, Steinberg. But these are really, really good. There is no better series of Hindemith recordings out there, although the Tortelliers on Chandos are also very good. But Hindemith is a wonderful composer for someone like Blomstedt, because his whole approach is to let the music speak for itself, except when he doesn't. I mean, you know what I mean by that. That's a meaningless term, but it means that he is not an interventionist conductor, and he's not trying to impose on Hindemith a sentimentality or ethos that's not part of what Hindemith actually wrote into the scores. So there you go. These are fabulous, and they were released as a Philips 3-fer, Decca 3-fer, or whatever it was. at one point, but that was out of print within seconds of its release, of course. So they're back. Yay. Mahler 2. I mean, Blomstedt doesn't do a lot of Mahler. He recently did a rather tepid Mahler 9th with Bamberg. This second is fantastic. Absolutely one of the great ones. And it's a sleeper because it was sort of, he wasn't doing Mahler in those days. And this sort of popped out of nowhere. But this is a celebratory, big-boned, exciting, fabulously played, brilliantly recorded performance. It's just thrilling, and you need to hear it if you like Mahler 2. You're going to love it. It's just, it's great. Let's see here. What else have we got here? Okay, next pile, Mendelssohn, 3 and 4. Great recordings. I mean, this guy was made for Mendelssohn. This is brilliant, wonderful, light, lively, fabulous, expressively molded plastic in the best sense of the term, with plasticity. It just is inevitable. It's like fate. It's like death and taxes. It's incredible, beautiful Mendelssohn disc. Absolutely beautiful. Then we've got his piano concertos with Thibaudet and the variations, the Variations Sérieuses and the Rondo Capriccioso. This is the reference recording, along with the old Circa Normandy ones of the piano concertos. This is the modern reference for the Mendelssohn piano concertos. An absolutely brilliant, wonderful disc with the Gewandhaus Orchestra, Thibaudet at his best. Then we've got the Nielsen cycle. Yay! One of the great ones. We've talked about it before. Everybody talks about it all the time. The only question I have about it is the super duper diminuendo at the end of the Fourth Symphony that gives the whole thing an autumnal glow, which is perfectly legitimate and quite lovely. But it just is something that Nielsen, I think, probably never intended. He wanted the music to drive through to the end, even though it goes down to mezzo forte for the last crescendo. And Blomstedt makes a meal of it, which goes to show that even non-interventionists, when they choose to intervene, can raise a few eyebrows. But I mean, it's a minor point. I just mention it because it's sort of so unusual for his style of conducting. But this is a great Nielsen cycle. It's his second, and infinitely better than his first, which was with Danish forces on EMI and was rather tepid and somewhat indifferently played. Well, I mean, it wasn't indifferently played, but they just weren't that great compared to what San Francisco can do with it now. So that's amazing. Carmina Burana, here we go, one of the great ones. Like I said, everything he did with the San Francisco Symphony Chorus is fabulous. And this reminds me very much of Herbert Kegel's because he finds the music in the piece. It's not just, rhythm and percussion. There is color. There is subtlety in the scoring of this piece, believe it or not. I mean, there is. And you really hear it. You hear the melodies. You hear the earthiness, the folk-like derivation of Orff's inspiration here. It's really very, very effective and beautiful. So this is gorgeous with this really good soloists. Who are they? Lynn Dawson, John Danietsky, and Kevin McMillan. One of the great ones. Again, let's see who else we get. Let's see. Okay. All right, we get next little pile. We've got Schubert, Symphonies 5, 8, and 9 with the overture in the Italian style and the Rosamunde overture. These two suckers. Now, Blomstedt did a complete Schubert cycle with the, you know what I mean, with the Staatskapelle Dresden. It's on Berlin Classics. It's fantastic. He was always great with this music. He is still great with this music. He recently remade 8 and 9 on Deutsche Grammophon. And they were rather dull compared with these and the earlier Staatskapelle Dresden ones because he was like 95. I respect the man tremendously, but, he's like every artist. However modest and unassuming they are, they're really all like psycho egomaniacs. They really are. And he says like, how humble and wonderful and undemonstrative he is. Well, yeah, but he still made 3 recordings of the same stuff. And you got to ask yourself, why? Why these artists don't have the self-critical faculties to say, well, that was great. This is great. I don't need to do it again. But just a point worth making. Then we've got the Sibelius cycle, which is right here. It's on 4 discs. You also get, Tapiola is in here somewhere, and the Valse Triste. Yep, and it's one of the great ones. Absolutely, hands down, one of the great ones. The top, little handful of Sibelius cycles. Beautifully played, wonderfully recorded, absolutely organic, effortless, terrific, made for a conductor like Blomstedt. He knows his Scandinavian stuff. He's Swedish after all. And, although maybe the Finns and the Swedes are not feeling it the way they used to, or maybe they're feeling it more than they used to, I don't know. He's a great Sibelius conductor. So we know that. We've talked about this cycle endlessly. I don't need to do it again. Next. Okay, Richard Strauss. This is great stuff, too. And, the thing that really made me crazy is that, Decca released a Strauss box of Strauss orchestral works and all the tone poems and stuff. And they had all of this, except, I think, for Till Eulenspiegel, where they decided to stuff in Kurt Mazur's recording of it. Just because. You could have had all of this in that Strauss box, but you didn't. So now here it is. And what we get is Zarathustra, Eulenspiegel, and Death. This is probably the gem of the cycle. It's great Zarathustra, great Death and Transfiguration, fabulous Eulenspiegel, really lively and amusing. It's just great. Then we have the Alpine Symphony and Don Juan, and a very good Alpine Symphony, very surprisingly good and very well recorded. Strauss, believe it or not, is a wonderful composer for people who are not too demonstrative. Strauss wasn't, remember. When he conducted his own music, he just sat there beating time like this, like he was bored with the whole thing. And he said he was bored with his own music. But what Blomstedt does is just lets the orchestra play and makes sure that they play beautifully and shapes the overall conception so that beautiful playing fits into a really cogent and successful concept of the work. And yeah, you'd think he makes it sound easy, as it should. It's fabulous. And here we've got Metamorphosen and Heldenleben. And last but not least, the Rosenkavalier Waltzes. This is with the Staatskapelle Dresden. The Rosenkavalier Waltzes, the Burlesca with Thibaudet, a fabulous performance of that. Really, really exciting and fun-filled. And the Sextet from Capriccio. Gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. So that, my friends, is the 33-disc Herbert Blomstedt complete Decca recordings. It is absolutely, why is this? Oh, okay, fine. It is absolutely essential listening. It's one of the great sets of anything from the second half of the 20th century. I have no qualms about saying that. Get it while you can. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.